Yeah, so thanks you guys for coming back for class number 2. This is really cool to see for us. And yeah, it's a very exciting time because the site is growing, we're getting more users, and getting into the educational side of things is awesome. If you want to learn more about Watch Me Work and you weren't here on Tuesday, you can listen to the beginning of the other video from Tuesday's class. But the one thing that I did just want to kind of hit on today is, the big difference between taking a live course and a video course is obviously access to the instructor. So we do want to encourage you guys to drop in questions that are relevant to what's going on, if they feel appropriate. So don't, if they come up and you want to put them in the chat, we'll try and take care of them, because we really want that to be the value that you get out of this, is access to McCoy as he's doing things. Obviously, he's got a lot that he wants to get through today, but I will try and monitor the chat again and get questions to him, and we want to make sure everything gets answered if we can. The other side of that is on Tuesday, we mentioned this coming Tuesday is going to be our special class where we ask you guys to live stream your work after McCoy does the first part of the class. And that would give you an opportunity for him to come over, look at what you're doing, and answer specific questions or problems that you might be having to your project. He sent an email, I believe, yesterday that has the instructions on how to get a stream started with Watch Me Work. That should have everything you need to do a test stream, which I would recommend doing before Tuesday, because it is a little bit complicated to get it going the first time. Once you do, it's a lot easier. But I would recommend that. And yeah, that's basically it. We're looking forward to seeing how that goes as well, because that's an exciting way to hopefully be a new way to teach as well. So yeah, that's about all I got. I'll hand it back to you, McCoy.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. I forgot to change the title, but we're actually going to be rigging Cool Dude. So we're going to be following the same steps. The same steps is pretty easy, but I kind of went over kind of in a beginner type way. I won't be explaining it as much. I'll be talking that we'll be adding the bones, adding binding methods. But what I really want to get into that I think will help a lot of you, that do illustration and you want to bring your illustrations to life. So if you're a book illustrator, or if you want to take your actual drawings and use either from Photoshop or any other software that you use, drawing software, and you want to bring those characters to life, that's what we're going to focus on. And I really want to focus on the more advanced methods. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's go ahead and get started. I had sent you the file. Hopefully a lot of you were able to get that one working for you. The image that we're going to be working with today, the character is made up of a bunch of different images. As a lot of you probably know, it's a Photoshop file. But this character is called Cool Dude, and he was created by Mike Roberts, who is a really talented animator. He's on the Facebook group, and really cool guy altogether. So what we're going to be doing is putting this character together. So if you have this character ready to go, let me know in the chat. That would be awesome. And we'll go ahead and get started with rigging. So if you do have this character and you have its bones and everything, and you have the animation, first what we're going to do is we're going to delete the animation. So come up here to animation, clear animation from document. So now we have no animation down there. If we look in our actions for our smart bones, you can see that there's also no smart bones or anything set up as well. And you're probably thinking, smart bones, that's weird. You can't really do that with images. But with Moho Pro 12, if you do have that software, with Smart Warps, I'm going to show you how we can actually create smart bones. So any distortions and stuff that you get, we can actually fix those with Smart Warps. Really powerful. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove these bones. So go ahead and get your select bone tool, hit Control A on the keyboard, and delete those bones. And so now when we create our new bones, we won't have any other bones existing. So what we're going to do first is we're going to create our root bone. So A on the keyboard, I'm going to add my bone with my Add Bone tool. I'm going to create my spine. I'm going to create a little neck area right here, and then I'm going to create a bone for the head. Next, I'm going to go to the chest bone, and I'm going to attach the arm to the chest bone there. And the next bone that we're going to do is the other arm. And as you can see, it's hidden. So let's go ahead and let's bring that back into view. So that's our right arm. So we need to select our left arm. So I'm just going to select that layer, hit Alt, and then left click to bring up, just that one layer. So now I'm going to, with my add bone tool, go back to my main layer and add those bones to that layer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a target bone right here for the cup. So I'm going to bring up a bone right here. But one thing about target bones, as you already know, is you don't want to have that parented anything. So I'm going to hit P on the keyboard to bring up my parent icon right here. And I'm going to click off. And that's what we're going to have to create our target bone. Going back to everything else, I am going to highlight this layer and I'm going to Alt left click. So now we're bringing everything back. So this bone right here is also going to be a target bone. But in this case, we are going to also real quick hit P on the keyboard, bring up our parent bone tool and take off the parenting for that as well. All right, so we have that all set up. Now what I need to do is I need to create a bone for this little hoodie right here. If I Alt right click, I can select that layer and you can see what that's made up of. So that little, let's solo that layer real quick. You can see it's the hoodie and then it has the little strings hanging off of it. So what we can do is we can attach one set of bones to this whole hoodie part right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit A on my keyboard and I'm going to draw out my bones from right here. And then I'm going to disconnect those bones and then I'm going to draw some other bones right here. Now, with the crisscrossing of bones, things can get a little bit confusing. So what you need to do is, what can help actually, is you can give your bones some color. So right here, I'm going to change that color to yellow. That way we can differentiate those bones a little bit and be able to grab them separately from the arm bone. All right, and the next thing that we're going to do now is, this is my root bone. And what I'm going to do is, let's see here. I am going to select this root bone and I'm going to use my add bone tool and I'm going to drag out my feet and my leg right here. So the leg, just the two bones, and then the feet is also going to be two bones because we want to use that for the walk cycle. So when he walks, the foot and the toe is bending as it should. And the same thing, we're going to do the root bone and we're going to drag out the leg top right there, bring the knee to right about there, and bring the feet to about there. And same thing, we're going to create a target bone. So I'm going to click off, make sure I don't have anything parented. With A on the keyboard, I'm going to drag out my parent bones. Or not my parent bones, my target bones. All right, and I think that should be everything. Let me just double check everything here. Just want to make sure I have everything rigged. Perfect, everything looks good to go. Next step that I do is I use my bone strength tool. Now, because this is an image, this is going to be an option that we're going to use for everything because that's the only way you can move imagery is with your bone strength. But we don't need bone strength for our root bone and we don't need bone strength for our target bones. So I'm going to go to all of my target bones and I'm going to remove that bone strength. Now, with the bone strength, one of the things that you will find out is the strength is going to control how much of the imagery is going to be moved. So a good rule of thumb whenever you're doing your bone strength is to have it just controlling or just right above the image that it's controlling, its influence. So have its influence right above the image. If you have it out too much like that, it can really distort your image and not make it look that clean. And that's what we want to focus on today. And then I'm going to go here to the legs, just bring down the bone strength there, bring it down there. The feet as well, we'll bring that down. And you can highlight multiple bones as well and bring down the bone strength. But as you can see, I'm doing this kind of quickly because we kind of covered how to do this in the last workshop. And then we're going to bring down the bone strength for the strings there. The arm, again, I'm going to single out that layer so I could see what it is I'm actually working with. Go back to the main bone layer and bring down the bone strength for the arm. All right, perfect. So that is good to go there. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to double check our parenting. So I'm going to hit P on the keyboard and I'm going to see if our parenting is correct. Make sure you're on your main bone layer or you won't be able to bring up your parent tool. And let's see. So I want everything, all of the bones through IK, through this IK chain here, which is all the arrows you see. I want them to lead back to the main root bone. And the reason why I want that is because this is what I want to use to control everything with. Now, as you can see there, nothing is bound yet, so nothing is really going to be working. But we have a few other layers there that will need some binding that are going to be separate from the rest of the body. So one of the things I actually forgot to do, let's do that real quick here so you can see how this character is made up, is let's break it down just real quick. So first we got the headphones, then we have the hat, the face. So these are all one layer, as you can see there. The hood part, the the pocket, the right arm, torso, pelvis, front leg, which is a whole layer. And this can be tricky sometimes, but with the character that was created, Mike Roberts actually did a really good job at being able to manipulate this entire leg with one layer. Pretty impressive. And we got the back leg and the back arm there. So now that we know what this is made up of, what we're going to do is go back to our main bone layer and we're going to set up our target bones. So we need target bones for our hands and we need target bones for our feet. So to set up a target bone, it's very easy. You're going to hit P on the keyboard and you're going to select with Alt. You're going to select the target bone that you want to target the hand bone to. And I'm just going to do that by simply holding down Control and then clicking on that bone. Now, as you can see there, I have something weird going on with that bone parenting. It looks like I'll have to figure out what that's going to. But that bone, something's being parented directly to that target bone. I think I might have done that by accident there. I think, oh good grief, it's this bone right here. So I actually need to take this bone right here, click off there. I want to Alt left click on this bone because as you can see there, it's parented to the hand bone. I want to take that parenting off and I want to parent it to the neck bone. And same with these bones. I want to take the parenting for this bone that doesn't have any parenting at all. And I also want to parent it to this neck bone. All right, very good. So everything looks like it's set up pretty well there. Awesome. So the next step is going to be binding. So we're going to bind this character now. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to go through layer by layer and bind this character. So for the headphones right here, I want to bind it to this head bone. I'm going to select that head bone and hit Control-Shift-F. Control-Shift-F is my Use Selected Bones for Flexi Binding tool. Next, I'm going to go to my hat and I'm going to do the same thing, Control-Shift-F. The bone itself is already highlighted. And just make sure I got that correctly. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-F one more time. And then the face, I'm going to, again, hit Control-Shift-F. That's connected. The hood, the hoodie part, is going to be connected to this neck bone right here that I created. So I'm going to highlight that neck bone and hit Control-Shift-F. The next one is the torso pocket. So the torso pocket is going to be closest to this bone right here. So I'm going to select that bone and hit Control-Shift-F. For the left arm, the arms are going to be a little bit different. What we're going to do for the arms is we don't want each layer to have its own bone. We want the layer to be affected by both bones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the right arm and I'm going to select both of those bones and I'm going to hit Control-Shift-F. So now that one right upper arm bone is controlling both of those bones, or is being controlled or influenced by both of those bones and their bone strength. And then the right arm open, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to highlight all of those bones and hit Control-Shift-F. All right, the next one that we're going to do is we're going to do the torso. which is this bone right here, this layer, I mean, and we're going to highlight both of these bones. Oops, let's go back to the torso. Highlight both of these bones and hit Control-Shift-F. Next is the pelvis. The pelvis is going to be, let's see here, which bone should I attach it to? I think the pelvis, if I remember correctly, is going to be the root bone. I want to say it's the root bone. The next one that we're going to do is the front leg. So we're going to go to all of those bones, connect those, and hit Control-Shift-F. The next is the back leg. We're going to highlight all of those bones and also hit Control-Shift-F. And then the last one is our left arm. So I'm going to solo out that layer once again, and I'm going to do the same thing like I did with the other arm. So I have my upper arm, I have my holding arm, which is the forearm, and then I have the cup. So what I want to do is I want to take the upper arm and I want it to be influenced by these two bones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of those bones and hit Control-Shift-F. And then with our holding arm, I want my holding arm, let's see, I'm trying to remember how this one was done. I'm going to select all of these bones, and if it's not, I'll fix it later. But I'm going to hit Control-Shift-F for that as well. And then the cup is going to be layer bound. So I'm actually going to highlight that bone right there. I'm going to go to the layer binding tool, which is right here, and I'm going to click on that bone. Now, if I did everything correctly, everything should work. And if you're new to rigging, or even if you're experienced, you're going to know that your rig's not going to be perfect the very first time you put it together. So what we got to do is we got to test it. And as you can see there, it looks like our bone parenting came apart, which it did. So as you can see, as I was moving that arm, it was popping off of the actual arm bone. So I need to connect those parenting back together. And there we go. All right, let's go back and test that one more time. Okay, so this now is controlled by target bone. So I can't move these individual bones. I have to move it by the target itself. And as we can see there is a little bit of distortion. And this is what I'm talking about. This is where we can fix with our smart warps. We can do some form of smart warp, smart bones. And it's really cool. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to try to fix this the best we can with bone strength. So remember how I said that we're going to use this front arm to control both of these influence layers, and we're going to use this forearm to control both of these influence layers. That gives me the ability to basically do this. So as I move in this bone strength, it's moving this layer right here. And as I move this one, it's moving that layer as well. And this is going to be a little bit tricky. You're going to have to kind of play with it. But something like that looks pretty good. Okay, so we have that arm. That arm looks good. We're going to bring up our hand now. And let's see what's going on there. Okay, so I didn't create a target bone. I need to make a target bone for this. This bone right here, let's target this bone. So I'm going to Alt and then click. And then with my parenting tool, I'm going to hit Control, hold Control, and then click on this bone. All right, so let's test it one more time, and hopefully it works. Perfect. Awesome. See that? It works. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to use the bone strength to fix this little issue that we're having right here. Okay. So just do it the best you can. Remember, this is an image, so you're not going to get perfect results. But you can get pretty darn good ones. All right, so that looks pretty good right there. And let's go back to our left arm there and bring all those bones back. All right, so continue testing what we have. We're now going to move the head. The head looks good. That somehow got unbound, so we'll see what to do about that. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to the hood, which is this right here, and we're going to rebind the hood back to those bones. So I'm going to select all of those bones. If I can, go back to the main bone layer. Something's being a little off here. So I'm going to go back to main bone layer, hold down shift, select all of those bones, make sure that they're highlighted. Then I'm going to go back to that hood layer. Okay, so I'm going to rebind it. So as you can see, I made the mistake of binding the hood to the neck. I want to bind the hood to the bones that I created. And so I'm going to hit Control Shift F and rebind that. And as you can see, it's going to be rebound. And with this right here, you don't want a lot of movement on this hood. And because it uses inverse kinematics, whenever you move this bone, unless you're holding down Alt, it's going to move all the rest of the bones. So to fix that, what we're going to do is we're going to give this hood bone right here, we're going to give it a bone constraint, or an angle constraint, I should say. And we're going to set that to 0. So now that will have absolutely 0 movement and won't move anywhere back and forth. And it'll just allow us to move the hood right there. So once you start animating and you start doing your secondary or overlapping actions, like as he's walking and his little, the cloth back here on the hood is bouncing back and forth, it's not bouncing everything. And then the same for the strings. Let's just test those out. Those look pretty good. Those are pretty simple to do, as you can see. All right, awesome. All right, and let's go back and let's test the arm. Arm is good. The bending is pretty good there. The legs. Oh, all right. So we need to now do target bones for our legs as well. And we're going to now take this main bone right here, and we're going to target this bone right here for the feet. So same thing, select that bone, make sure you're on your parent bone icon here, your parent bone tool, and then you're going to hold Control and then click. Same thing here, hold Control and click. All right, now the legs should be working pretty good there. Now take a look at the leg. If we take a look at the leg right here, let's see if we can, all right, let's try that again. On frame 0, it's kind of hard to test things with target bones. But if we take a look at the leg, you can see there's a little bit of distortion, but it looks pretty good. Remember, this is one image. So think of the possibilities. If you're like an illustrator and you want to bring your story illustrations to life, take a look at that. That's pretty cool stuff right there. And that's done just with the bone strength. But like I was saying, we could actually go in with Smart Warp, and we can change that up a little bit to give it some smart bone type features, which we'll hopefully get to once we get all this rigged. And then let's take a look at the feet. The feet look good, cool. Let's take a look at the other leg. Other legs looks pretty good. Again, you can adjust the bone strength to however you want. You can change it like that. But the one thing to notice is whenever we change the bone strength, it will be changing the textures that you had drawn. So the more detailed it is, the more chance you have of kind of messing up the textures and things like that inside of your drawing, because it's all part of one layer. So it's definitely good to keep it simple. That's always a good rule whenever it comes to animation and even rigging, to keep it simple. At least for this part, because the more advanced stuff is in Smart Bones, but you just want to make sure everything's looking good, and it does. So if we go to our root bone here, looks like we forgot one thing, and that's the whole purpose of testing. So we forgot to bind our pelvis bone. And as you can see, mine is a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do real quick here is I'm just going to bring everything down, kind of like what we did last time. And one thing that you can do to make sure that not everything doesn't move when you drag a parent bone down is you need to unparent it. Because as you can remember, everything is bound by that inverse kinematic chain. It's binding, or it's going back via IK chain back to this main root bone. And so what I need to do is I need to go to the root bone and just real quick, just unbind all the legs. So the leg, let's see here. So this leg right here, I need to unbound, and the binding to the chest, I need to unbind that. And this just makes it easier so I don't make a lot of work for myself. So what I need to do is, let's see here. I need to drag it down with my translate bone tool. And I want to bring it down closer to that pelvis area, like the original character. You can see the pelvis part is actually really far down there. Started way too high up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it a little bit further down, just making sure that I do have everything unbound real quick here for my parenting. Going to go here and let's see. Click off the parenting there as well. Okay, and that should be good. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down to right about there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to refix the torso area, and I'm going to reconnect the neck and everything. So the neck area was somewhere right about here. Okay. All right. So this could seem embarrassing, but I have to admit, everyone makes mistakes, and it's good to see how things like this can be fixed. So I hope you're actually getting something out of this as well. Whereas if this was like a already recorded course, I would have edited all of this mistake out, but that's okay. No shame. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my bones, and I'm going to bind them back to the correct bones that I had before. There we go. And I want to bind my arms back to the chest bone, the arm back to the chest bone, and I want to do the legs back to the root bone. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go through now and I'm going to test everything again. And as you can see, it's going to come unbound. So that's probably because the bone parenting got messed up right here again. So I'm going to go make sure I'm going from my neck back to my torso. I just want the hood to connect to the neck. I don't want this part to connect to the torso, and I don't want the neck to connect to the hood either. I know that was probably a little bit confusing, but let's see here. I'm going to use my manipulate bones tool and make sure that the strength is really low there. Go back to this bone. Okay, so that's looking pretty good there. Now I'm going to move the main root bone again. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to bind the pelvis area to the bone that we just moved down. So I'm going to go to the pelvis area, and I'm going to hit, let's see here, Control-Shift-F. There we go. So that's starting to come back together again. All right. So one thing that I could do is I made the spine really straight now, and as you can see, it kind of made them more rigid. There's kind of a little bit of a difference when I go to Z on my keyboard, but that's okay because this is the testing stage where you actually manipulate stuff and you can move stuff around and get more flexibility is on frame 1. So don't ever let that discourage you or anything like that. That's just something that happens. Same thing like this. Sometimes the target bone doesn't know which way it's supposed to go on frame 0, but for testing purposes, everything looks pretty good there. And then one thing that we're going to do is we're going to move this closer there, make sure that that target bone's snapping to there, and that looks pretty good. And then what we're going to do for this this hand layer is, as you can see, when I pull it away, it just kind of comes apart. So what you can do, I think it was introduced in either Anime Studio 10 or 11, is maximum IK stretching, which is really cool. And we're going to add some what are called bone constraints now to our bones. This is slightly more advanced, not really too advanced though. And so let's see here. I'm going to go back to this bone right here. and this is the forearm bone. I'm going to go to my bone constraints, and I'm going to turn on my IK stretching to about 1.5. 1 represents the stretching, which is 0 stretching, and 0.5 is half stretching. So I'm halfway going to stretch this bone. Let me illustrate here real quick. So it's going to stretch that bone out halfway than it was before. So that's at 100% or just at 1. And here is at 1.5. Let's see. Probably right about there is how far it's going to stretch. And this allows you so you can get that. You're going to be doing a lot of squashing and stretching whenever you create animations and stuff. But that just allows me so that it doesn't come apart very easily. You can get some more flexibility in there. So that looks pretty good. And then let's see here. What the next thing that you can do for your legs, you can also do the same thing. You can add some IK stretching. So what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of IK stretching. We'll do about 120 because we're adding IK stretching to all of the bones. So it's going to take this plus this and add that IK stretching together. So when I go to the root bone and I stretch that out, you can see it stretches out just a little bit further. And then you can also do the same for the target bone. So IK stretching works with target bones only. Along with target bones only, you can also add what is your squash and stretch. So if I go to squash and stretch scaling, watch what happens when I now stretch. Watch what happens when I stretch this bone out. You can see the artwork is stretching out slightly. So what you can do is you can go back to those 2 bones and stretch those out. I thought I could show an example as I had the bone stretch out, but I guess you can't. So as you can see there, it creates a little bit of a squash and stretch effect there as well, which looks pretty cool. And then the last thing that you can do, as you can see, my bones have gotten really messed up. I don't think I reset my parenting right when I was trying to stretch everything out. So you can just fix everything back to where it was. Important thing I want to mention about target bones to the bone that's being targeted to. Watch what happens when I do have this target bone really far away. When I go to the Manipulate Bones tool, you can see that this bone that was targeted to the target bone, it wants to go to that bone, so it's going to jump. And if you ever get that result, that is why, is because you didn't have your target bone connected to the bone that you were targeting to. So easy, just snap that back into place. And you can see it gets a little bit of movement there because like this target bone is trying to move back into place. You can easily take that bone and also attach it closer. So there's not that much bouncing when you go from T on your keyboard, which is your translate bone tool, to Z, which is your manipulate, which is what you'll be seeing in your animation. So that's just a tip there for you. How's everyone doing? Is everybody with me? I feel like I've been those teachers in high school that just drone on and on and on, and then you just like fall asleep in the back of the class because you don't really know what's going on. As we all know, you bought the bundled edition. You bought the bundle of the live workshop plus the courses. So use those courses to your advantage for like refreshers. If there's a certain thing, I try to make everything really clear as far as like sections, like, oh, okay, I need to go to the tool section and rewatch this video. And then as some of you know, I'm working on an ebook. My wife is actually helping me transcribe the whole thing. So we're going to have an ebook as well to go with that. That'll hopefully be a little bit clearer than the manual. Because if you're anything like me, the manual really made learning the software pretty difficult when I first learned it. Yeah, so that is basically the end. What I'm going to do, Chris, I know, has a few things that he wanted to add prior to us finishing up here.
Cool. I like when you make the character dance around like that. It's pretty entertaining. But yeah, no, just want to add to what you said. Thanks, guys, for coming to this second class. This was awesome. And McCoy, awesome job. As a reminder, again, if you joined in late, please review the document that McCoy sent for download on how to start a stream here. We're encouraging everyone who's in the class to stream their work this coming Tuesday so that McCoy can answer specific questions or specific stumbling points that you're working on, and he can actually see you using the program and hopefully give you some tips. And ideally, you guys might be able to help one another. So if you haven't tried getting a stream started, please do. If you have any questions, you can email me or McCoy. My email is chris@watchmework.com. I'm always happy to help troubleshoot people who are just getting started. So that's all I got.
All right, awesome. And again, from both Chris and I, we just want to thank you so much for joining us for this workshop. And please, if you're able to make it, and be ready to show me your rigs. I want to be able to help you with your rigs if you're having any issues with them. This is a really awesome platform for me to look over the shoulder and see what it is you guys are doing correct or what you need help with. And it's just a really cool interactive way to help you with your rigs. So I will be sending out that email with that information tomorrow, along with the downloadable video, so that you have this all ready for next week, for next Tuesday. And I just want to clarify that is next Tuesday, December 6th. I know I got my date wrong last time, and I do want to apologize about today's date, but December 6th is when we're going to be doing the next live workshop, and we hope to see you there. Thank you again so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys later. Have a great weekend.